What's up, WordPress warriors? It's Patrick Gallagher. It is Friday, July 31st. It's my first video in a while here. We've got a lot to cover, and I want to try and actually get my day wrapped up a little early. For those of you that are thinking, oh no, there's a big long video and there's no blog post, there should be a blog post today, and there's already an actual changelog entry, okay? And so if for some reason you don't see a blog post, you can blame Steve, but if for some reason you're pleased about the blog post and the changelog and any of the new knowledge base articles, you can also thank Steve, okay? And so he's been killing it in that regard. Make sure that if you're seeing areas where you need additional help in the documentation's unclear, ping us either in support or tag us on the Facebook group. He's constantly making changes in there, and certainly add something into the feature request list, okay? I mean, good documentation, enhanced documentation really is a feature, so feel free to add it there, okay? So I'm not going to go through these things one by one. You can obviously read that stuff. We've got some bug fixes, we've got some changes. I just want to touch on some of the big ones. The big one is, one of the big ones is definitely backups, okay? Our plan was by August 1st to be able to kill Borg universally across all boxes. And while on the one hand we technically can do that, that would be kind of dumb because that would be us forcibly killing all of your backups. And so we're not going to do that. What we are going to do is we are going to extend the beta, but we're basically going to open it up to pretty much everybody. So it's going to be a staged deal. As of right now, there's still an issue with the implementation for pro users specifically, so you do not yet have access to this, okay? I apologize, but it should be the first of next week. You will be able to get on the backups beta request list, and you'll be able to do all the fancy cool stuff too. Not as much as developer, but that's always been the case because developer is better than pro. But for right now, if you are a pro level user and you have not already gotten on the beta, we will direct you to this form. It'll be linked inside the post or the YouTube video or whatever. You'll have access to this. Fill this out. Make sure you read everything and you are 100% clear on the fact that when you engage this thing for a given server, that you are eliminating all of the existing Borg backups. There's like 3 boxes that you have to check in order to do this. We've told people, hey, just so you know, if you turn this on, you're killing all your backups. And we literally had somebody this week that said, hey, for some reason AWS isn't working. I don't have the right key. So can I just go back to the old backups? And the answer is absolutely not. Okay. So big decision here. If you have your own backups, which we highly recommend, then you can safely make this switch here. Will not go when you flip the switch, which is basically you fill this form out within 1 business day. We put you on the beta, and then you have access to this capability. Basically, you can click on the server customizer, and then you can say enable backups v2, okay? And you'll see once that goes on, it's a grayed out switch now. You can't go back. Okay, this now is going on to my server and it's eliminating all of the old Borg backups for that box. And then now what I need to do is site by site by site go in and make my customizations. Okay. We're going to be building things in. You can see the Borg have been banished to the Delta Quadrant. Long live our new robot overlords. In the long run, we will be adding things in here into the server customizer so that you can have uniform settings that you set for all sites on a box, okay? But for right now, basically you would be going in, you'd go into your settings, you put in your Backblaze credential or your S3 credential or your Wasabi credential or your Dropbox credential, and we've got more options coming in the future. Pro users are going to get access just to S3, the most commonly requested one, but basically you add those things in, and then you can go into the site customizer itself, and you've got all kinds of new options here, okay? How frequently you want things to be done, doing a manual backup, which you can name and tag right now, setting your backup thresholds, setting your purges, you can do all that jazz, okay? And so we've really come a long way with this, but we want you to continue testing it. So developer users today can get access to the beta. Anybody, you don't need to be an LTD user or whatever. And again, early next week, once we have this final issue resolved with pro users, you'll be able to get on. And so pretty much anybody that's a paid customer will be actively in the beta next week. And then once we're 100% certain that everything is good to go, then we will basically make it possible so that every single person can just flip this switch if they want to, and then we'll just start keeping track of who's still on old servers, and we will be politely nudging people out of it, out of using Borg, because Borg has all kinds of random inefficiencies. If you've done a lot of staging pushes, if you've got large sites that you're constantly backing up, you've probably seen the issues, and so you'll want to move off of that as quickly as possible. So another big thing is you're going to start to notice that we've got a lot of tooltips throughout the UI now. It's almost getting so busy in here that I think that we should totally overhaul the UI, and so that's on the future roadmap here. But if you're curious about what Auto SSL is, just click the link and it'll take you right to the aforementioned really extensive documentation. Okay. And so I think that's pretty cool. One other neat thing that we've done is we've totally overhauled the status page. And the status page now is live pointing to actual endpoints at these infrastructure providers. So if, say, for example, Vultr's Frankfurt location is down and you go to their status page and it says everything's perfect, you can come back here and actually see a real indication of the actual status of the various infrastructure providers. They're not all in there yet. We need to add AWS. We need to add some other ones. So certainly if you see anything that's missing there, just make a feature request or ping us in support, which brings us sort of full circle to the last, and I think the biggest thing that we've changed. We have completely changed the chat support interface, okay? So we spent something like $25,000 and many months and many sleepless nights trying to implement a chat bot, an intelligence system that's used by some of the largest companies in the world. American Express uses them, Zoom uses them. They have a roster of amazing logos in their client portfolio, and we are no longer in that client portfolio because unfortunately, there were just more problems than the whole thing was worth, and it created a lot of pain points, and it damaged our reputation. And if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't have, okay? So we're switching back to a system that's very, very similar to what we used in the very beginning, which in the very beginning it was Intercom. Now we're using a system that we feel has even more capability than that system. Note, though, that we don't want that to, our immediate typically replies in under 16 minutes. We don't want that to be motivation for people to not go and read the documentation, not actually gauge whether or not they have a high priority issue or something that can be looked at in 24 hours, okay? And so we are going to be building some automations in here, basically just to capture the minimum amount of information that we need in order to actually start working on your ticket. So namely, what's the server IP and what's the site URL? So we're going to be building those automations in. Please don't cry about it. We have to have that information anyway, so we can either automatically get it via a bot, or we can say hello, and then we can ask you those questions, and then we can actually start working on your thing. So I think it's actually more efficient to go that route. But yeah, totally new stuff there. And for developer users and above, there's some really cool things that we can do in there, like live screen sharing. Immediately go to audio calls, audio support, basically phone support, and then all the way to video live, like Zoom support, immediately all through this interface. And so I think that that's super cool. I think that if you are a pro user who gets good support, you're going to want to probably go up to developer because the support is going to get even better than it already is, okay? So I think I've covered everything. Again, we've got everything broken down here in the roadmap, and Steve will be taking all of this random crazy stuff and putting it into a blog post, and that should go out. So there'll be an update notification inside the app. There'll be a new blog post. There will be an email that we will be sending out this weekend to just basically update everybody on these things once all of the different pieces have been uploaded. And so yeah. Hopefully you all have a good weekend. Real quick, books that I'm on. I don't know if I've shared or recommended this one before, but I'm gladly going to recommend it again. I'm going to be rereading this. I'm supposed to be on vacation this coming week, but our oldest daughter was exposed to somebody extensively that tested positive for COVID. So we're canceling vacation. We're having a staycation, which even a 6-year-old realizes that that's not a thing. that's bullshit by comparison. Tourist in your own town is not nearly as cool as let's drive 3 hours up north and stay in Grandpa's cabin. But anyway, Replay is a fantastic fiction book. It's sort of the coolest take on time travel that I've ever read, and it's really unfortunate that this author passed away, I think pretty young, because this book kicks all kinds of ass, so I'm going to reread that. The other business book that I'm on right now is Designing Your Life. So the thing that I think is really interesting about this, I read, I think it was either a Wired or a Fast Company article a few years ago, and it was about the most popular class at Stanford is not a computer science class or an entrepreneurial class. It's this how to design your life. And so it's basically a guy with a background in design thinking, looking at how do you actually create a life that you want to have, okay? And so I just recently remembered that article, went and hunted it down, found it, reread it, and then fortunately discovered, lo and behold, the guy wrote a book. Shocker. When you're famous for your class at Stanford, you write a book. That's what you do. So those are the two books: Replay by Ken Grimwood, and look it up. I don't know who it is. I haven't started reading it yet. Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, Designing Your Life. So hopefully this all finds you well. Please stay safe, take care of yourselves out there, and enjoy your weekend. And yeah, we'll all catch up with you next week. Pro users, stay patient. I promise you the backups are going to be worth it. We've got just a couple more kinks to work out, and then we'll be good to go. So yeah, that's all I have. Cheers, everybody.